Pretty good move to play the final on this.
Yeah.
On this one.
That's a nice table.
It is a nice table. Yeah. Okay. Well, good morning, viewers, and welcome to the Reventon Snooker Academy at the Yarraville Club in Melbourne for the final of the 2018 Australian National Billiards Championship. David Pitt with you in the commentary team. I'm joined this morning by Grant Medley from New South Wales, runner-up in the 2017 New South Wales Billiards Championship and a semi-finalist in this year's Oceania Billiards Championship. Grant, I'm sure like me you're looking forward to a tremendous final here.
Good morning, David. Certainly am. This is going to be a great final. Both players are starting to hit their strides. We've got Steve, who's he's in great form at the moment. Matt has been struggling compared to previously, so obviously he's been concentrating on his snooker and hasn't put much time into his billiards, but it's going to be a great final.
Yes, it is. Well, 6 hours of billiards, 3 2-hour sessions, and it might surprise some people that we're playing for such a long time, but historically this championship, which is the oldest of the Australian Q Sports Championships, it's been going since 1906, has been played over a time format over long periods. In past times, this final would have been played over 8 or even 10 hours. Nowadays, the final is played over 6 hours, and the purpose of that is to try and ensure that both players have the best possible chance to show their skills and for the run of the balls to even out over the duration of that 6-hour match.
6 hours seems like a short time compared to the 1930s, where they used to play matches over 2 weeks.
Yes, that's right. In the professional ranks, they used to get the crowds in, and 2-week matches were the norm.
The players are just going through their warm-up routines. You'll see Matthew play a lot of half-balling offs, just to get used to the speed of the table.
You mentioned Matthew's preparation has been mainly focused on snooker this year. He's been over in the UK playing on the Pro Tour and has only relatively recently come back to Australia. Steve's preparation has been somewhat by contrast. Steve has really kicked into billiards in the last 12 months or so. He's been playing a lot of billiards in preparation for this tournament, playing well, I know, because I've been pulling the balls out for him most of the time. And so it's quite different to the preparation that he's had in other years, where he's come from a straight snooker preparation into this championship and really just used the Open and the round robin of the National as his sort of tune-up for billiards. So you'd have to say that with Matt coming off more of a snooker preparation and Steve coming off more of a billiards preparation, that just might narrow the gap between them, and it is a very big gap. Matthew's a strong favourite here, in my opinion.
Yeah, look, Matt Matthews' B-grade game is obviously good enough to beat all players in Australia, but we'll see what happens this morning. I'm sure Steve will be fired up. He's a very focused individual.
So just to recap on yesterday's semi-finals, we saw some excellent billiards from Matthew, 467 yesterday, and a number of 200s. Steve also made a 300 in his quarter-final and several 200s yesterday. So both players are in good form without, in Matthew's case, really reaching the heights that we used to see him. The last 2 or 3 years we've seen Matthew knocking around about 4 or 5 breaks over 400 during the course of the tournament. Of course, with 6 hours to go, there's still ample opportunity for him to knock in some big ones.
Yeah, I think the climate has played a major factor in that too, with all the rain about, and obviously creating some tricky conditions. The balls do weird things with the rain outside, and I think that's been an issue. A lot of moisture in the air, which does affect the cloth, the balls, and obviously the cues. So I think we're getting close to a start here. I'm sure we're going to get a presentation from Mr. Cosgrove. Kim, the VBSA media officer, will be taking a few pictures.
She's doubling up on duties today, Kim, because she's also going to be refereeing the 6-hour final, which is not just a test of stamina for the players, but also for the referees and the check scorers and so forth. It's also going to be a test of stamina for our cue ball TV guru on my right, Dan Lynch, who doesn't have the luxury of a replacement. We have a number of people who'll be stepping in and out in the commentary team, but Dan here will be pushing buttons, focusing cameras, keeping track of the score.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
All those wonderful things.
Welcome to the final of the 2018 Australian National Billiards Championship. We have two magnificent combatants to compete in the final. 15 times Australian National Billiards Champion from Western Australia, Matthew Bolton. And his opponent from Victoria and a former Australian National Champion, Steve Mifsud. Could I ask everyone please to make sure their mobile phone is turned off. The final will be refereed by Tim Ibeck. There are 3 2-hour sessions. This is the first, and Ruben Chandler will be manning the electronic scoreboard for us. After the first session, there'll be a decent lunch break, and then there's a half-hour break between the second and third sessions. Thank you everybody for coming along. I hope that everybody enjoys the live streaming. I wish everyone an equal rub of the green. I'll leave you in the hands of the referee. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just heard from Paul Codsgrove there do the player introductions, and Matthew has won the string and he's having a break with the yellow.
That's not unusual for Matthew. He has a strong preference for the yellow.
Yeah.
And it's just a very minor victory for Matthew at the beginning of this match.
I think a lot of players do prefer the yellow if they do win the string. It's, I think it was a belief sort of when the yellow did come out that the weights were slightly heavier with the yellow. So it's the preference for players to select the yellow.
Shot there by Matthew. He just got on the wrong side of the red. Yeah, I think you're right about the yellow balls. We had a batch of balls here in Victoria about 4 years ago where the yellow was the heaviest ball in every set. So it meant that you couldn't get a match set because even if you had 4 sets and tried to mix them around to get one good set, you couldn't do that because the yellow was always the heaviest.
Yeah.
This set of balls that they're using for the final is a brand new set of balls. I measured them before the match at the request of the tournament director, Paul Cosgrove, and this set is within tolerance. 0.4 grams difference between the 3 balls in the set, which is within the allowable half a gram.
Yeah, I believe these balls, from what I've weighed myself, obviously been involved in the New South Wales Association in the past, they're very consistent, these balls. With the spots, I believe they're a lot more consistent than the plain colours that we've had to use in the past. A great pop by Matthew there.
Yes, I think they're also absolutely fantastic from the spectator's point of view, both at the venue and on cue ball TV, because it enables you to see the secrets of the masters. With the old plain coloured balls, you couldn't really see the spin that the players were putting on the balls. With these ones, you can see everything they do, and it's quite an eye-opener to just reveal some shots that they actually play with a lot more side or with the opposite side that you might have expected them to play, and there's nothing there. It's also tremendous feedback as a player when you're using these balls, because you can see how much side you put on the ball, and it gives you great feedback in your own game as to how you're hitting the ball.
Yeah, you certainly get a good idea of the side applied to the ball based on the dots, and it does help you develop your game and work on those little touchy shots and seeing what you are doing wrong. I see Matthew is just working at the pace of the table here. A couple of the early shots he did overhit. Won't take Matthew long to adapt to the speed of the table. Matthew will be looking to get the top early here and knocking in a sizable break to start the match.
Matthew, of course, the strong favourite with 7 out of 18 Australian Championships. He will have in the back of his mind the 2009 Championship at the Brunswick Club in Melbourne, where Steve gave him a tremendous run for his money. Matthew only ended up winning that match by 20 points after Steve had made 100 break right at the very end. Come back from 120 behind. Now Matthew's got drawn first blood here. He's in with 21 to go, and he's just brought the balls down to the top of the table. He'll be hoping to just get the white into favourable position behind the spot for a sequence at the top of the table.
Yeah, so we're looking at an angle here to bring the white back towards the bottom of the red spot. So he's having a look at now. He's behind that red. He's going to play over cannon.
Yes. I think he's looking here to play the cannon from the white to the red, pushing the red over the pot, working the white back behind the spot, and just going off this gently to leave a pot one, I think. I don't think he's doing that. Let me see. Pace is all important on this next shot. If he gets this right, he can have a nice position to carry on.
You don't really want these pots at the start of the match. You want to sort of ease into the match with some nice in-offs. It's not the best situation. You're leaving long pot reds to start the match. He's played that well. So Matthew has the opponent's white not in perfect position. He might take another pot here and go up to the centre pocket.
You can see the fierce concentration on Matthew's face there. His ability to concentrate for long periods is just outstanding, and that's what's brought him all those big breaks over the years.
I think about Matthew's game, with every game he plays in these long matches, he really likes to get in early and knock in a big break and apply pressure straight away, as we all do, but obviously Matthew's got greater ability to do that. So he's played that plain ball. Kim's just spotted on the red spot there.
There was no better example of that getting in early, of course, than the final last year against Joe Manici. Joe tried his trademark double balk off the break, left the red out of balk, and Matthew stepped in 546 first visit, 6-hour match over in one visit. Joe was never going to be coming back from that.
Make mention of Kim Ivette, who's refereeing today. I believe it's her first Australian national final. Kim's a great billiard referee. She's improved so much. She puts a lot of time into the game and listens to the players, and she appreciates feedback. And I've had Kim for 2 matches this tournament, and she's fantastic. It's great that she's refereeing the final today.
Yes, couldn't agree more, Grant. She's always here at the billiards tournaments, willing to referee all day, and as you say, she's continually improving. Fully deserves her spot here in the final.
The table doesn't seem to be running too bad just based on that shot. It's still a bit slow, but it's manageable.
Yes, the other issue that we've had this year with the speed of the tables, Grant, is that the cloths are a few weeks older than they normally would be. Past practice has always been to play the championships on brand new cloths, and for the last 2 or 3 years, there's been a triple header of the Lads Panel Snooker Classic, followed by the Australian Open and then the Australian National. So the cloths went on at the beginning of that period, and by the end of the 10 days play, everything had settled in. But this year there was a major Revenden Classic tournament on about 4 weeks ago, and after after some discussions with the Australian Council, we've decided to put the new cloths on at that time. So the cloths are now about 5 weeks old, which is older than normal, and it just means that the playing characteristics are somewhat different. Beautiful shot there by Matthew, off the top cushion with side to land perfectly on the correct side of the red to leave the pot.
Yeah, the cloths, they obviously lose their shine pretty quick, and the balls don't slide as much. It's great to play on new cloth. It makes life a lot easier for billiard players. So with these couple of week-old cloths, they do play a little bit differently to what we used to, and we have all had to adapt to those conditions.
As you mentioned with the weather and the humidity too, it's played a factor in that. Good to see that the tournament organisers, Paul Cosgrove, the tournament director, and others have been responsive to the players' comments about the cloth, and have been requesting the preparation of the tables to be modified by ironing them more often than they would normally do, to try and bring up the tables up to the speed that the players like.
And also using table 3 for the final as well. Both players prefer table 3. It's a great table. It's a table that we used to play the finals on at the old Yarraville room, and both players agreed it's probably the best table to play the final on.
That's right, yes. It was fully refurbished about 3 years ago. In fact, they replaced the cushion rails on this table, so it's from the legs up, from the slates up, this is effectively a brand new table.
So Matt's still trying to work these balls into top of the table position here. He will be pushing the red up and leaving a drop cannon. Doesn't want to cover here. That's been happening a lot this week.
Just the fickle nature of drop cannons, isn't it?
Yeah.
Grant, sometimes you just can't totally control how they're going to go. Sometimes they just land perfectly, sometimes you get a little smother, or worse than that. This one's worked out okay for Matthew, but he's going to have to go away from the top again to take the red up to the centre of the table. And use the middle pockets to get the red ball back down.
It's funny, a lot of the top players, they tend to use the drop cannon quite a bit. Obviously you have different teachers of the game who teach the direct method, which is obviously a series of in-offs to get to the top of the table. A lot of the top players do prefer drop cannons. It's I suppose a quicker method, and it comes up more often.
It's interesting, Grant, that you mentioned that, because my old mate Jim Long, who was a good friend of Walter Lindrum's, he told me, he asked Jim Long, he was having trouble with his, Jim Long was having trouble with his drop cannons. He asked Walter Lindrum. Walter gave him a couple of tips, but he said, Jim, you need to know that the height of my career, I eliminated the drop cannon from my game and purely used the middle pockets to go to the top of the table. So, pushing both balls out of the middle pocket, in off the white to push it behind the spot, and then pop the red and go down, and that eliminates any possibilities of smothers or kisses and things. It's the safest method. Takes longer, which is why a lot of players prefer drop cannons, to be able to go straight to the top, but it's not without risk.
Yeah.
Nice little shot by Matthew, very thin off the red, and just using the jaw for the ball to bobble off 2 jaws and then just drop into the pocket. Confident shot that, because he was only probably half a millimetre further along the cushion that would have missed.
He's left himself a tough shot here though.
So thick run through.
Yeah.
Ooh, it was well called there, Grant. You could see that was tricky. He had to play that as a thick run through. Didn't quite get it thick enough, but the break of 97 there to Matthew. Nice opening move, but he's left Yeah.
Just have Dave Collins in the background there. The pressure of the 100 break.
I can refute that comment, David. I've got a little sheet that I prepared last year showing Matthew's breaks in the Australian Championship, and I don't think the pressure of making a 100 break really has got to him. I'll just dig this out of my file here.
Just mention while you're digging that up, David. It's David Collins had a great semi-final match with Steve Mifsud yesterday. It was a fantastic encounter. Steve got off to an early start, 200 odd points ahead. David Collins came back within 50, and then Steve turned it on again, and he won by close to 300 points. It was a fantastic match though. Both players were in great form.
So just getting back to David Collins' comment about the pressure of getting to 100, I don't really think that there was a lot of pressure on Matthew then to make that 100 break. If he had got that 100, it would have been his 452nd century break in the Australian National Billiards Championship. So I don't think the pressure of 451 or 452 is really a factor at all for Matthew. So looking at Matthew's stats over the last 17 or 18 years are just phenomenal. I prepared a spreadsheet by going through all the results of the tournaments. In that period he's made 15 breaks over 500, another 14 breaks over 400, 29 300s, 88 200s and another 293 centuries. Absolutely staggering numbers. He's averaged 26 centuries in every Australian Championships that he's played over that period.
Yeah, just saw a fantastic thinning off by Steve there into the centre pocket. He's just checking where the yellow is in relation to the red spot. And if it does spot, it's quite close there. We'll see by this shot where he lands. He might play it to land. He has.
It looks as though it's covering the spot. Although if you look at the nameplate at the bottom of the screen, it does appear to be to the side. We'll find it in a moment. Kim seems to be spotting there. So.
The surgeon's touch of Kim. There she goes.
There she goes. Very close.
Yeah.
So this is actually a pretty good position for Steve. He needs to play a delicate shot here.
Yeah.
But it's not without risk.
So Steve will play a number of cannons here. He'll probably be bringing the yellow back towards the red with this shot. Steve's a very fluent player. He doesn't think much. He just gets in there and does the business. Completely different to his snooker technique. When he gets to the top of the table, he doesn't really feather the ball much. He just gets down and plays the shot. Steve obviously has a very strong upbringing with the billiards game with his father. He loves the game. It's a great attribute to have as a snooker player, a knowledge of billiards for safety, and obviously control of the cue ball. So Steve's got a tricky little pot here. He's just checking to see if that red will come past the yellow after the pot. In these early stages, some players do tend to play with a backup, so he might be playing a cannon here as well.
That's a bit of a surprise that Steve, with his snooker prowess, would miss a relatively straight forward putt like that. He was trying to screw up for position, possibly with the yellow covering the path of red into the right-hand top pocket. But
I actually watched Matthew's semi-final match on this table yesterday, and he did actually struggle with that same pocket. The pockets, they're a good cut. They're not too generous. They will find you out if you're not cueing well.
Very, very close there on that cannon.
Yeah.
Yes, all these tables cut to the IBSF templates by Alcott. So as you move around the room, from table to table, they're all very, very similar. Can't say that they're exactly identical because I think there's one or two tables which are perhaps a little tighter than others. But generally speaking, the tables are pretty uniform as you move around the room, which is a fantastic thing. Playing in a tournament like this where you're playing on a different table every match, to have that uniformity.
Yeah. The only exception obviously being the star table, table number 5. A lot of players did struggle with that this weekend. It's a very quick table with the steel block cushions. I know I had one match on that table, and not being familiar with the star table, especially the tightness of the pockets, it was a difficult situation.
Yes, of course, that table cut to the professional templates, the WPBSA templates, which are quite a different shape and generally much tighter than the IBSF templates that the rest of the tables are set up. The reason for that is that Chris Christophe, the MD of Reventon, who have been so generous in assisting the setup of this Reventon Snooker Academy here at the Oracle Club, he wanted to provide a practice facility for Victoria's players where they could play on professional conditions. So the decision was made to install the start table with the professional cloth, professional pockets, and as close as possible to professional conditions to give the players the best possible chance to prepare for tournaments overseas playing under those same conditions. An uncharacteristic miss there from Steve. I think both players are just feeling a little nervous at the beginning of this game. Certainly have yet to produce anything like their fluent form that we know they're capable of.
Yeah, Steve just walked away from the table and gave the shoulders a little limber up there. It's difficult to rock up 10 o'clock in the morning to play such a delicate game.
It's difficult to rock up at 10 o'clock in the morning under any circumstances.
That's true, yeah. So Matthew's already got Steve's ball below the red spot here.
Not quite the best angle on the red.
No.
You have to take this around the table.
Yeah.
Both these players, of course, great snooker champions as well as billiards champions, and they've won numerous Australian snooker championships between them. In fact, between billiards and snooker, these two guys have won 42 Australian championships, which is just staggering.
Yeah, that's incredible, and there's many more to come.
Yeah, so they've been the dominant two players of the last 15 years, really. Or longer in Steve's case.
Yeah.
He's in his mid-40s, Matthew in his late 30s.
It's interesting too. You don't find many countries where you have so many players proficient in both disciplines of the game. Obviously, India, we have Pankaj, who has absolutely dominated the IBSF world titles in both disciplines the last few years. But Australia, we do have a rich supply of players who do play both forms of the game.
Yes, there's not just these two, but there's others that spring to mind who won both Australian billiards and snooker championships. Two of them playing here this week, David Collins and Joe Manici.
Yeah.
And Steve's won, I think, 3 Australian billiard championships, and Matthew, of course, has won 9 both. So there's 4 players in the field who've won both the billiards and the snooker.
A lot of that comes down to our history of junior development too. We've had some great characters in the past who have helped the junior game and really pushed the importance of billiards as well as snooker. Growing up for myself, we had guys like Kevin Barber who really embraced the junior game and helped us all play in as many tournaments as possible. Obviously, Charlie the Guru in Sydney too, who helped with a lot of coaching with the juniors. And
well, big surprise there, Grant. Matthew Bolton just missed a red off the spot. You could sit here all week and not watch him miss that.
Yeah.
So that followed up from a miss by Steve.
Yeah.
And he's let Steve back in here. It's a great putt for Steve to just hold for a couple of reds off the spot and
this will settle Steve down a bit too, having a few easy starters and getting the arm going. You'll see Steve quicken up as he gets a lot more confident. He's very quick around the table. When he's in flight, it's a fantastic thing to watch. So Steve playing for the drop cannon here. Let's see how Steve controls these balls.
Not great.
Yeah. Steve playing another screw cannon here.
Again, just flicking the red. When
Yeah.
both times there he wanted to hit the red full in the full to knock it towards the pocket, but he's just flicked it both times, and he's left himself a third consecutive screw cannon from the light. Maybe he's having a look at playing this one off the red and with a little side to.
Yeah, he's gone to the extension.
Slow cannon here off the red, just pushing the red off the cushion, coming into the white and leaving himself a potter running off the red. Nice recovery there. He had three tricky shots in a row and handled them quite well. Now he's just a pot red into the corner. He can try a number of different approaches to this one.
Yeah, he's got to do a bit of work with the red ball here. He's fairly straight. It's a similar pot to what he missed earlier, so he's playing with screw here. Yep. That was a tough shot.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work out for him.
No.
He's flooding himself there. Doesn't have a run through because it's setting the white up. Now he's in real trouble.
Both those shots there, you can see he's not quite getting through the cue ball yet. You're playing, he's looking at the angles here. With Steve, he doesn't mind making the balls travel for a cannon. He be playing this off the back cushion, red to yellow.
Wow, this is an incredible shot to
Yeah.
play. Cushion first, half full off the red. Oh, what a great shot. Oh, that's
fantastic.
What a wonderful.
That's one for all the Curran players out there.
Yeah, that's right. Wonderful, courageous shot. You know, he had no certainty with that shot, but he took it off, and the result isn't too bad.
Yeah, that just shows the knowledge that Steve has of the game.
Another good shot called for here. Either skinny in off. I don't think he fancies the skinny in off the yellow, so he's going to have to screw in off the red.
Yeah,
here.
I think he preferred to screw in off. Very good control of the screw shot, Steve.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Just took a late curl towards the pocket, didn't it, Grant?
Yeah.
Beautifully struck.
So Steve will be playing a number of in-offs here. Just trying to get the balls back to top of the table.
Went wide.
That's another problem when you do play that direct method. A lot of players do. Just seen a replay of this shot here Steve played. So you see that half ball direct off the red, two cushions.
Yep.
That's
Tremendous shot.
creativity at its best.
And hitting it hard too,
Yeah.
which has an added, added complication in the shot. The balls aren't running particularly well for these two guys, you know.
Yeah.
That anything could have happened there. He's left himself a possible run through here, but the jaw might get in the way.
I think he's got enough angle there just to get above the draw. He's straight down.
nicely played.
That's fantastic. So we're nearly 30 minutes into the final here, and both players are still trying to find some form and get some breaks happening. It's always hard to get flowing in such a high pressure situation. Both players well aware of the capabilities of their opponent.
Yeah, so once again the ball's just not running kindly. That red has landed up in no man's land really. Matthew can't go enough that he can't really play a cannon.
He'll be looking to drag this towards the white ball here.
I think he might be just, he's going to try and pop this one.
Yep.
Didn't work out. Well, Grant, it's been very pleasant chatting to you here while we're watching. We're going to try and change over the commentary team now. So we're really going to be joined by Peter Tankard. And Peter's going to take over from me and Grant. We'll sit in to continue. Thanks, Grant.
Cheers. So I've just been joined by Peter Tankard for the next half an hour. Well, hopefully, good, thank you. Well, you haven't missed much, Peter. We've half hour in, and both players are just finding their feet. The balls haven't been running quite the way both players would like. Both players still trying to adapt to the pace of the table this morning.
Steve looked a little jerky on some of those pots, very uncharacteristic. He had to force a couple of positions there, and like he moved on the shot. I don't think I've ever seen him move on the shot in his life.
He doesn't want this red to drop in here.
Yeah.
He's okay. He's got the yellow there. Yeah, it's hard to.
When you say he's okay, it's not an easy shot.
It's not an easy shot.
It's a screwing off. That's beautifully controlled. Yellow's going to the cushion here, which is going to be a problem for him. So he's going to play red first cushion, then yellow. But this shot seldom leads to a good result.
Yeah. Going to get David Collins into the commentary soon, Peter. David had a great semi-final with Steve yesterday. I'm sure he'd have a great insight into this final and what both the players are feeling in the early stages of this match. Dave, obviously, an ex-Australian champion himself, and many times a finalist and runner-up. So when Dave's ready, we'll get him in here and get his insight.
Yep, he knows a thing or two. He's a member of one of the great dynasties in billiards, and I think that we have a lot of dynasties because the game is so complicated. It takes more than one lifetime to learn. So David is the cousin, I think, of George Gannam Jr. and George Gannam Sr. is his uncle. Both former Australian billiards champions. Matt Bolton, for his part, is also part of a dynasty, and he's part of both a family dynasty and a training dynasty as well. His family dynasty includes Ernie Clark, his grandfather, who was a West Australian snooker champion on his mother's side, and on his father's side, his grandfather was a snooker and billiards champion, and Father Neil has also been a West Australian billiards champion. So a lot of pedigree for both for those guys, and in fact Steve Mifsud too was trained by his dad, and so he and his brother James are both part of another dynasty, and it's amazing how the families work there. You and I are on our own, Grant.
We are, yeah.
We don't have that advantage, and consequently we struggle compared to these guys.
Western Australia obviously have a long history of producing billiard and snooker champions.
Sure. And that was what I was referring to in the training dynasty. Walter Lindrum's full name is actually Walter Albert Lindrum, and he was named Walter Albert because they're the initials for WA. And he's born in Kalgoorlie. And so Matthew has been trained by Bob Marshall, who was in turn trained by Walter Lindrum. So that's a pretty strong pedigree there. And if you go further back, Walter was trained by his father Fred, and he was trained by his father Friedrich. So it goes a long, long way back.
That's not a bad pedigree.
That's not too bad, is it?
No.
So it's one of the great. I always think there are two great dojos, if you like, two great schools of billiards, and they both started in the when billiards was just brand new. And the first recognised world champion, well, not quite the first recognised world champion, but one of the first great champion was John Roberts Sr.
Yeah.
And John Roberts Sr. Trained his son John Roberts Jr., who in turn trained Tom Newman, who in turn trained Jack Carnham, who in turn trained Mike Russell and Peter Gilchrist. So for the last few years we've had this battle going on, which has really been, when Gilchrist and Bolton play, it's just the latest episode in a battle that's been going on for 150 years.
So who's in line next with that dynasty?
Well, funny you should ask. Matthew's son Jake started poking the balls around at the age of 3, and Neil reports that they find it difficult to get young Jake off the table. Every time he goes to Grandpa's house, he climbs up on the table and starts knocking the balls around. So we're all in deep trouble for many, many years to come. That's a clever. Oh yes, that's a clever.
Just had David Collins walk into the studio, so we might get him to jump on the mic and spend some time with Peter. And as Matthew is just getting to the top of the table here.
He's starting to look a little more fluid now, isn't he? Joined now by Dave Collins, one of the semi-finalists here. Perennial semi-finalist here, you might say.
What's that, Peter?
Perennial semi-finalist
perennial,
here.
yeah, and perennial runner up to this bloke too, because such a fine player, Matthew, and has dominated the Australian billiards for some time now. And we've got the dream match up here with Steve Mifsud and Matthew. I would say clearly the two best players in Australia at the moment.
Yep.
And through certain circumstances they haven't been able to play off that often. But this year, here we are. And hopefully it's going to be a great match.
Yeah. How important do you think is it to get away early in this match? Is it more important for one player than the other?
Yes, I would think that it's important for Steve to get off to a good start, as Matthew's a very heavy scorer, and I think Steve needs to be with him to keep the pressure on Matthew, and if he lets him get away too far, it could be a bit of a task trying to get back in the match. And
do you think Matthew's susceptible to scoreboard pressure?
there's no doubt everyone's susceptible to scoreboard pressure, and Matthew's no different, just that no one has been able to put the pressure on him of late. And Steve, being such a fine player, has got the capabilities of going a long way with Matthew, and it's a matter whether he can put the pressure on Matthew. So we'll just have to wait and see. We're only early into the match. They've started off a little bit scrappy, Steve has, Matthew a little bit himself, but we'll see some big breaks for sure.
So just describe the position they're in now and what Matt's trying to do.
Well, Matt's got what we call postman's knock, with the ball hard up on the rail behind the red spot, and he could make a heavy score with just by double kissing that and potting the red and getting up for cannons. But he normally prefers the floating white, but certainly knows how to play postman's knock. Having said that, he's left himself a little bit finer than he wanted to. He might have to go in off this and work the balls back again.
So when he goes in off, does he leave drop cannon?
There you
No,
go.
pot red.
He could have left. He could have left the drop cannon, but he left it. He played it in such a way that if he landed short of the pocket, he had a drop cannon, but he went to a good position, so now he can pot it. So he left the options on the shot.
Yep. So what angle is he looking for off this?
I'd be looking just to get good on the red. He can't really actually play for it perfect. Just good on the red where he can work it, screw back or stun up for a cannon next shot. That's landed pretty good. Looks like he's just playing a stun up
Little
here.
stun.
Just a small stun, soft. And now he'll double kiss the double kiss cannon, put the red over the hole, and away we go again.
What's interesting is that he seldom leaves himself a straight red. He's always leaving that 3/4 red, so that he can work position off that.
Yes, and a lot of players, when they leave a straight red, they play for the run through to the pocket, so they can go on off again and push it over the centre pocket. Whereas Matthew's got the confidence and the potting ability to screw back to the side cushion and come out again for the cannon. So that's an advantage in itself.
That's a great shot.
That's a lovely stun shot. Matthew's
Just misses the white on the way through and
Yes.
comes up high to drop down again and get that rat-tat-tat, which is the
well judged
sound
shot,
of
Peter.
Postman's
Yes,
knock.
which both players are very comfortable playing, being good snooker players.
Sure. Do you think all snooker players are potentially good billiards players?
Not necessarily so. I think the snooker players that are able to hit the ball with extreme side have got a much more good chance of being a good billiards player. Some snooker players don't like to use a lot of side, but in billiards it's all about spin and side and make the angles wider and make the pockets bigger by using a lot of side, and these fellows certainly can use a lot of spin as well, so that's what makes them good billiard players, because they play the game and they're good potters as well. They can use the spin.
So he stuns up again off this one,
Yes,
gets that high angle to drop back down on the white.
and just to roll that, we had a bit too much angle to stun there, so we just had to use the natural roll to create the angle.
So it's pretty forgiving hitting this wide, isn't it? You can touch it in a lot of different places and it'll just jam on the cushion there like that.
Yeah, you can jam it there. He can actually, if he hits the white with a certain amount of spin, it can come back towards the right behind the spot. But he knows that's still a good position to be in. He's just got to land a little bit higher, because the white is over further, as you see. The white's a couple of inches over to the side, which still makes it very ideal.
Mm. So it's surprising how hard he can hit that white ball and still trap it there. He played a fine cannon that time. And
Yes, the white's going nowhere once you double kiss it, really.
I think the world record break at this was Geet Sethi, who got 1,251, I believe, just purely by playing Postman's knock. But I was talking to Geet in Leeds, and he got rather bored with this, a bit too repetitive. You need perfect pace control for it, but it's not nearly as interesting or intricate as floating white. So in his last few years playing as a competitive player, Geet actually converted across to floating white. When we say floating white, what do we mean by that, Dave?
Well, I first met Geet, played Geet actually in 1987 in Ireland, and it was all Postman's knock, and he made a 760 break playing Postman's knock, and was the best player in the world, defending champion, and
That's gone a little wrong for Matt there, hasn't it?
yeah, slightly gone wrong. He's just have to play, skinny enough, push it over the centre maybe. Yeah, it's comfortable enough to play that.
And he's straight back to it after this.
Straight back to it, so he's still in good position.
Sorry, I interrupted you. You were telling us about Geet in Ireland.
Yes, and Geet was only 26 in those days, and obviously he still had a lot of improvement to do, and realised he had to learn all parts of the game, and obviously did, and was able to adapt to the other side of the game, floating wide as well. And he also there was a couple of Belgian players in Ireland in 1987, and he was interested in the Belgian players were playing nursery cannons. They were very good at nursery cannons, and they captured Geet's interest, and he spent an hour or two learning a few nursery cannons off him, which was good. So yes, he was mad keen to improve his game on all aspects.
How did the Belgians adapt to our tables with a napped cloth and a square face cushion compared to what they're used to in cannon or carom play in Europe? Were they effective with nurseries?
Well, no, they weren't that. They were mainly cannon players, and
Yeah.
and the rest of the game wasn't. They were probably more interested. We were interested in the cannons because they were so good at it, and they were more interested in the open game or in the top of the table, like
Yeah.
we were good at. So we could learn off each other.
Mm.
Matthew's got a tricky shot here. He's sort of in between everything. He's almost got an in off. He's almost got a pot here, and it's probably all about his next shot. He's more worried about, I think, where he's going to land.
Now this is a shot that Peter Gilchrist would lean right over and just line it up straight for a pot, wouldn't he?
Well, when you're
6'5".
when you're 6'5", 6'6", for sure.
You can just about get there.
No, that was
Shake of
actually
the head.
just slightly careless by Matthew there.
He gave those
Which is-
balls
which
the
is-
death stare.
Which is unusual to see Matthew being slightly careless, because he took a fair while to play it, and in the end he sort of, to me, hit it a little bit quick. Steve will be delighted he's back at the table, by the way,
Yes.
because Matthew looked like he could score a very, very large break there. And he made 147, which is a nice contribution, but he would be disappointed not making it, the 200 or 300 there.
When are they most likely to make their biggest breaks in this match? 6 hours is towards the end or towards the beginning?
I think the middle sessions they're more likely to make their run, so to speak, because they already had 2 hours. They're well and truly warmed up. Whereas when it gets to later in the last session, when it's beyond 4 hours, the fatigue can set in a little bit. While you might see a big break, I think the big breaks tend to come in the middle session.
Hmm. There's a long pause here, and I'm not quite sure why. Are we offline? Are we, Dan? Ah, it's a toilet break. Okay. But everything's so still, I thought we must have been offline. And there we are. There's Kim waiting patiently. And first
200 points the
referee.
difference, very early in the final, and if Steve can make some sort of score, and it'll be good for the spectators watching.
While we're here, Dave, when did you first pick up a cue? At what age were you?
Probably 13, I would say, when I was going to school. There's a snooker room in Geelong, and used to go down there, do my homework. Was it not quite, but yeah, my uncle was a champion player, and my cousin, and I soon got interested in playing.
And that's George Gannon Jr. and Senior. Where did they learn?
Well, George Gannon Senior, which is my mum's brother, was a Geelong person, and I don't know where he actually learnt it, but he was certainly a terrific player and was able to play all the shots and nursery cannons and everything like that. And his son, George Jr., was, well, they used to play off in the state title every year, and
Yes.
and they were great players.
And how old was Junior when he first beat Dad?
I think he was around about mid-20s to, I think he won his first state title when he was about 28,
Right.
which is seems to be a good year, because I was too. So that was that shot by Steve was way off. Don't know what happened there. Just a misjudgment, which happens, and
It's actually good to see them miss a couple to help realise how difficult these shots are.
well, the game is difficult, because Walter Lindrum, the greatest ever, we used to miss, even though he might have scored a few thousand. He still broke down, and it's very hard to keep going.
Judgment here. Perfect.
It's a good shot. He needs another good one. Looks like getting off in the centre, right centre pocket to me. Be nice if it's a natural shot. It could be natural. It's a matter of,
for that.
yeah, it's a matter of picking and judging that it is natural. Looks to be a little bit thinner than natural, so
When you say natural, you're talking about the half ball angle.
yes,
of course.
natural, yes. Half ball shot, yeah.
Half ball at anything up to medium pace. It might also be available as a forcer where it hits the ball wider and gets the yellow to spring off the red a little bit more. Doesn't look like he's lining that up. Looks like he's lining up a screw cannon or something.
Yeah, it looks like that. So he's going for 2 shots here. Maybe pot the red and the
5
screw
shot.
cannon. No, just went for the pot on the red. Very tough shot.
Hasn't left a lot. Red's in balk.
Well,
Steve's got a screw in off the yellow, but
he could screw in off the yellow. He could try and pot the red and play for a cannon as well as a backup, which he'll thump this in and try to get around for the yellow as well.
oh,
There you
that's
go.
a great shot.
That's a great shot. Well, he played it almost
He's
played in
thumped it
such
so
a way
hard.
that
Yeah.
he almost played in such a way that he wasn't worried about the cannon. But if he had caught that a little bit thinner, the cannon was on.
It's all happening here.
Well, that was lucky. He played a
Yes.
forced cannon, and the red happened to go in off the red as well, which gives him more control.
Now you can put this white pretty much anywhere on the table that he wants. Oh,
That's a terrible shot by
terrible
Steve,
shot with a great result.
but had a fluke and landed off on the white, on the yellow, I should say. So that was a bit fortunate there.
If he doesn't catch the draw here, it'll
He's
be
out of
lucky.
business here. He's hit the jaws. It's gone safe.
It's like we've got an earthquake going on. What's happening there? Somebody's jostling the camera, I think.
Oh, great effort for a cannon.
Great effort. But they just haven't come right for Steve, have they? He's been having to play these thrash forces all over the place.
Yeah. Steve hasn't settled at all yet.
No.
Uh,
How did he
I'm
dodge
sure
the
he
double
will
kiss there?
settle, but he doesn't want to leave it too late.
Dave, is there a method for avoiding that double kiss?
Well, there are methods of avoiding it, but sometimes the double kiss if you try to avoid the double kiss, you can cost you getting the shot. So
Yes.
quite often when the double kiss is on, it's on. It's like in a snooker game where you want to play safety, but the double kiss is staring at you in the face. It's almost impossible to actually to avoid, and you have to find some other way of playing a safety.
There's no formula that you have. I've heard that if you line up the first ball for a straight pot, that it makes the double kiss less likely.
Well, it all depends on the circumstances and where the balls are situated. Sometimes you can pinch a bit here and there. So, yes, well, it can be risky trying to do that, but also it's a possibility it can happen.
10.
Well, that's not a good result for Matthew.
No.
If he's not too close to the white ball here, he could probably run through that comfortable enough and make the cannon. I would expect him to get this.
Screw in off maybe.
Run
No,
through
you're
cannon,
right,
run through cannon for sure. He's got a big target. As long as he doesn't push it. Yes, as I said, I expect him to get it, and he's got a good shot.
Oh.
But his next shot's going to be probably harder.
They're just not coming right for these guys. They're working their tails off and getting nowhere. So what's he got here? Depends how close he is to that.
It all
red.
depends how close he is to the red. If he's back a little bit, he may be able to get cushion first cannon, but if he's too close to the red, I can't see much of a shot on it at all.
Mm. Sizing up
Yeah.
a Massey. You could play cushion first half, ball forcer almost, screwing off
As
the
I
red.
said, it's hard to tell from here how close he is to the red. Oh, it's screwing off.
Yeah, what a great shot. Great
There
control.
you go. Filled everybody. Now he needs a very good pot here or cannon.
So the cannon's perhaps a little easier.
I'd say Matthew being a good potter, I'd say he'll go flat out for the pot here, off two cushions and land on the red. Or stun it in. There you go, off two cushions. Lovely shot. Now he's got control.
Of
He
one
should-
ball at least.
8.
Yeah,
So-
he should be able to rescue the other white
So
ball
what's
there.
his strategy from here in rescuing that white ball in balk?
Well,
Two pots and put the red on the middle spot,
exactly. That's what he'll do.
and then
He's potted it once off the spot, and he'll leave himself a cannon to push the red over the right-hand corner pocket, and hopefully he can make good contact on the white, which he'll be able to pot the red, then go on off the white after it. That's what he'll be hoping for.
and ideally he'd be trying to play it off that balk cushion, wouldn't he? Which it looks like he's got that angle for.
Yeah, he doesn't want to leave it too wide because he'll have to hit the red too hard. He wants to leave it. He wants to be able to play it slow. Yeah.
Let's hit it direct. I know Peter Gilchrist lines that up to play off the balk cushion and knock the white out of balk rather than try and hit it direct.
Yes, well that's a terrific shot that Peter does, but I think the ball needs to be closer to the side rail to make that a viable
A
option.
sure thing.
With the ball off the rail, it makes it too risky, I think.
Yes.
So you
slip
need,
behind.
where it was with Matthew, I think directly was the only way to go.
That hasn't worked out well.
Oh, he got the red on the wrong side there. Now he's got real problems with scoring here.
What's he got? Screw in off red.
Yeah, he plays these very well. I'd say he's probably 6 or 7 out of 10 he'd get this. There you go,
That's one of the three.
that's one of the
Either
three.
one of the three or four.
Might lift Stephen in off here, and maybe Steve's a chance to get going. He'd like to start scoring some points now, Steve. It's not bad.
Do you think Steve's overawed by Matthew? Does that get in his head?
Well, at the start, he probably wants to do so well at the start to get off to a good start. But see, that's a poor shot from Steve. He didn't get the red up at all. He's still not settled. He still needs to settle yet. And once he settles, well, he's a terrific scorer, break builder. It's still a bit wide. Yes, this game, once you're not settled, the game's hard enough as it is, but if you're not settled and you lose your touch and you need to start scoring some points to settle into the game. And having said that, Matthew hasn't settled either, so Steve needs to pot this red, and he's away here.
So pot red in off yellow.
Yes.
Red goes on the spot, and you try to get yellow into drop cannon position. So
Yeah.
3 shots to top.
Yes, it all depends on where this yellow lands, and as I say, he needs to score. He's not that far behind. He's only a couple of 100 points behind. So even 100 breaks going to leave him only 100 behind.
Yes.
So it's game on.
So he hasn't been able to get that into drop cannon position, so he's got to play another in off the
Another
yellow.
in off. You just got to be careful not to pot the opposition
Yep.
yellow ball here. Well done.
Well, that's pretty close to perfect now.
Having played Steve plenty of times, I know he's very, very good at these drop cannons and seems to contact the red in the exact right spot to leave a pot on. That's
Which
what
is
it is.
generally
That's the
full
main
ball.
thing, being on the red. So Steve hitting the wrong side of the red there is most unusual. Steve's been playing some terrific billiards of late, and
Yes, David was saying he's rededicated himself to billiards.
yes, and I've even said to Steve myself, I said, well, you've got the touch to be one of the best in the world if you do that.
Our
So-
our overseas visitors were very, very impressed with Steve. They hadn't seen too much of him, but Rob Hall managed to beat him. There's that touch.
Yes.
Managed to beat him, I think, 5-3 in their match. And Steve pushed him all the way. It was 3-all at one stage before Rob got away from him, but he was very impressed with Steve, not having seen him before.
Yeah, well, I can. I've played Steve many times. Going back at the OSCV, we used to practice, have 1,000 up games, and I know how good Steve can be and at the game. He's a terrific player, and it's a matter of getting his head right and having the dedication to put in the hours of practice you need to. Matthew's done all that, and but Steve, I give Steve a chance in this match because of how well he's playing. Plus Matthew's been on the snooker circuit
Yes.
as well, playing over in England. So maybe that with all that together, it all goes for maybe a very close contest.
Yep. I thought the same myself. But he needs to start to make a move from about now on, doesn't he?
Yes.
Otherwise the mountain gets too large.
Yeah, he's still got time, and Steve can make Steve's already made a 300, but in this tournament so far, so that's landed very awkward.
Now he's just got hampered queuing.
All he can he can only drop it in. He definitely can't hit the middle of the white ball, but he can hit over the top of it. Still back him to get this. No, there you go. Once you're bridging over the ball, it becomes a very difficult shot.
Yes.
He wouldn't be very happy there. He had a good chance. But the drop cannon wasn't perfect,
Yep.
not settled enough, and that's the result.
So we're going to swap my voice out for Mike Pearson and Grant Meadley, I think. If we can locate those guys. There they
Grant
are.
Medley
So
and
I
Michael Pearson, the
so we might
New South Wales
version of David
Billiards champion.
Collins. Michael and David are both sporting the same haircut, so it'll be very difficult to tell them apart if they're in commentary together. So we'll put Michael.
Thanks very much, Dave and Peter. It's a very aerodynamic hairstyle for billiards that both Michael and David do possess. Obviously joined by Michael Pearson. Michael didn't have a great tournament this year. Michael has been in the position that Steve is currently in. He numerous runner-up in the Australian titles. Michael, when you wake up the morning of the final, what are you sort of thinking and preparing for facing someone like Matthew?
Oh, well, obviously you're going to have to get off to a great start and put a bit of pressure on Matthew, because if he gets out flying and can just free hit him, there's no stopping him. So Steve is going to have to try and make a sizable break and just put a little bit of tension in Matt's arm, because we all know what Bulldog Matt is, and he'll just run away with it.
It's hard enough to play at 10 a.m. in the morning and get the arm flowing. From your experience playing in finals, how do you cope adapting to the conditions of the table and also the early starts?
Yeah, well, that's the first thing you've got to try and do. You've got to try and adapt to the condition, try and get the pace of the table. And I mean, if you can do that pretty much straight away and try and keep it simple, you know, if you can get something on the board early, there's a long way to trying to put some pressure on the other player. We know Matt adapts very, very quickly, so Steve's really going to have to get something pretty soon, I think.
How did you find the conditions this year with the clock's obviously been a few weeks old compared to what we are used to? How did you find that this week?
Yeah, I struggled myself, but these conditions are still 10 times better than what we're playing in New South Wales. You know, we play on a lot of worn out cloth, and you adjust your game to play in those conditions, but yeah, it's always a fantastic venue down here. I think the weather has played a bit of a part on the cloths being a bit damp, which a lot of players have struggled, and you can only look at the breakboard and know that there's a lot of good players down here that weren't making some big breaks, so it's just the way it goes sometimes. But nice day outside. Hopefully with the aircon in there now heating the room up, the conditions will play a lot better for the next two sessions.
Yeah, look, it does take a fair while for this room to heat up. The players did actually comment about half an hour ago, and the tournament director did go around and check all the air conditioners, but you know, obviously overnight the temperature does drop in here, and it does take a fair while for the room to heat up. I'm sure in the second session we'll see some better billiards, and the players would be a bit more comfortable with their surroundings. That's just playing a drop cannon here.
We've got that white a bit thick.
Yeah.
You should be able to still either title going off the white ball here, or we leave another drop cannon. We'll have to play this thickish.
So he's sending the ball. Yeah, he's
A bit too
overhit that.
hard. I won't be happy with that.
No. So I'd be interested to see the mindset here. Does he play a safety shot, spreading the balls, or does he take the cannon on? Obviously playing Steve, being such a creative player, you know, spreading the balls doesn't always result in safety. We saw an earlier shot today where Steve used the back cushion first before contacting the red to make a cannon, so Matthew spread the balls there.
He would have liked to get his yellow ball tied on the cushion
Yeah.
there, because he's left a cannon now.
Yeah. So do you tend to play these off two cushions or one?
Yeah, I prefer to play them off two, because then you're hitting the red back to the centre of the table. You quite likely leave yourself a pot or in off in the middle.
I find personally that taking the extra cushion does narrow the angle down too, and it seems to create a bigger target, taking the extra cushion.
I'd have a thin one here off the side cushion, just to promote the red to the middle pocket. He's got a thick one. Might try and get the yellow back down behind the spot.
Steve, he's always thinking about top of the table. He's always pushing that ball. He's hit that short. He's still struggling to get through the cue ball, Steve. He's earlier shots today, he was really struggling to generate the power and pushing through the ball. We saw that there.
This is very tight. We'll be able to dribble this in the lever in off the red.
He'll be off the cushion after he pots this. Let's have another look. It must be extremely tight. These centre pockets in the Yarraville room here, that they are slightly tighter to what we used to playing on in New South Wales. Obviously, all the tables here are the template. That's a great shot there. Very consistent in Victoria with their tables. Obviously, Alcox do a great job on the majority of clubs down here, making sure all the clubs are template. So he's playing a screw shot here off the yellow. Oh, he's played off the cushion.
He hasn't put enough side on
No.
that.
It's one thing I found. Those shots with slide there off the top cushions, you really have to bite into them. They don't seem to be taking much with side.
Yeah, you've still got the slide off the cushion,
Yeah.
so yeah, depending on what angle you're hitting the cushion at, you might have to put a bit extra than you normally do.
Matthew got lucky there. He might have even been looking at that as a backup. Luckily, he's left a natural angle down towards the white ball here. Sometimes when you're playing these forcing shots, luck does play a big part in leaving a natural half ball or an easy cannon like this. I think Matt's played out with a fair bit of pace, trying to get the white ball back up the table somewhat. He'd be looking at the run through in off here.
Yeah, I think that looks
a bit straight.
Yes, he wants to take the long pot on and leave the in off, but I think he's got a little bit of angle to push through the white here and get in off. And it looks like it must be pretty straight.
Yeah. So we see how Matt's queuing here. Yesterday's semi-final, Matthew was really struggling, even at close range with that pocket. Early stages of a final, it's always hard to pot reds like that. A fair bit of distance between the balls. Steve's let loose there. Maybe a little bit of frustration.
Yeah, it can be hard sometimes. Yeah, your opponent misses and you don't see a shot for a few goes, and you just want to be putting points on the scoreboard and holding the table. Very well judged.
That's a bad miss from Matthew there. Probably one of those shots you expect to get. You don't really put much thought behind the shot. It's a gimme and just a little lapse of concentration there. We've all done it.
Good opportunity now for Steve with the balls in good position. Try and make a break here. Playing off the red here. The corner pocket, bring it up past the middle. Well judged. It's probably gone a little bit too far.
Yeah. So are you looking at bringing the yellow into a centre pocket position for a direct method of top here at
Yeah.
Michael, or you?
Hit off the yellow is the right shot here, but the only problem is about where it is. It looks pretty much for a 4 shot, and
Mm.
you know, to make a sizable break, you need 3 balls, so you'll probably have to pot the red here.
Yeah.
And playing off the red after that, or stop it for a cannon.
Yeah, it's an interesting little spot when the opponent's ball lands about 8 inches above the centre pocket there. It's always a risk of an accidental pot of the opponent's ball. Steve was probably well aware of that and decided to take the pot red. Steve would have liked that opponent's ball to just land a little bit shorter there. He's just looking at the in-off angles. He probably play a little cannon here.
Yeah, it's a tricky pot on the
Yeah.
red.
Could be a little tight for the in-off there. He's just checking that out now. He'll be pushing the yellow ball up towards the centre pocket.
Thin there.
Mm.
We'll have to play another cannon.
That's one thing with the cannons, when you know you're going to lose the opponent's ball, it's always handy to leave it up towards one of the centre pockets. Steve's forced to play another cannon here.
17.
It's finished a little nasty.
Yeah.
We're not touching.
Yeah, Steve was obviously trying to bring that opponent's ball around towards red for another cannon. So one thing I did notice in my quarter-final match with David Collins, he does that very well. He brings the balls around and for another cannon and keeps the break going. Definitely learned a lot from watching Dave play those shots.
Very difficult shot that.
Just saw a bit of frustration from Steve there. He's not having a good run of the balls. It's something you don't really see from Steve very often. Usually a very calm character.
I think he knows Matt hasn't knocked in a big break yet, and he knows it's his time. He really has to produce some good billiards and make a break.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we do know Matthew will get going.
So Matthew's tried to play that white ball there to leave it in off. He's left it a bit tight, but it shouldn't be an issue. And that's worked out quite well. Michael, you had a tough quarter-final match with David Cosgrove. Run us through that match here.
David played quite well. Got away with it a fair bit when he missed. The balls can go anywhere, but I didn't play well. I haven't really put a lot of time into the game, and it doesn't matter what sport you play, if you're not putting the time in, you're probably not going to get the results too often. So I always enjoy my time down here. Anyway, anytime you can be playing billiards instead of working. Big screw back there by Matt.
Yeah, David, first time he's made the semi-finals. Great achievement. He came up against Matthew in the semi-final there. Always a tough ask. Matthew got away quite early and held a 1,000 point lead in that match. Actually played on this table. So Matthew's looking for another drop cannon here. He'll be wanting to come on the inside of that red to push it towards the pocket. Maybe a touch left-hand side here, Michael.
Yeah, you don't want to go into the red too hard here,
Yeah.
or you'll lose the red.
So
Double
you-
kiss it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the opponent's ball is still a fair way from the red spot, but I'm sure Matthew will get that back. He's just looking at the angle now for the in-off to play a drop cannon back towards top. So he's looking at potting this red, leaving an in-off on the white ball, and then playing another drop cannon to get back to top. So these are good shots. I mean, if you overhit the opponent's ball, you've still got an in-off in the centre pocket. If you underhit, you've still got the cannon.
Playing that with a bit of side to push it, he hasn't hit it hard
Yeah,
enough.
okay.
So you'll have to play the cannon off the top cushion now.
Mm. And this is an interesting shot. I mean, some players do play it with a little bit of pace towards the centre pocket, but some players like to hit a thin edge. Okay.
Just gather the balls.
Yeah.
This is one of the shots Matt's very, very good at.
Yeah.
Not just making the cannon, but pace on the red.
Yeah, he always seems to get that pace right, doesn't he? This has come off a bit hard. There's a commentator's curse, Michael.
I've got him. Fortunately, every time I've played him, he's finished perfect.
Actually, Steve plays that shot quite a lot. The screw back. So let's play a series of cannons here. Be looking at pushing this white towards the centre pocket eventually.
Yeah, just past the middle
Yeah.
pocket there for an in-off.
There we go.
Just underhit it
yeah.
a little bit, but he's got a pot on red.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, look, he might play the straight red and leave a cross loser on a screen back.
I think he'll run through. He's got a
Yeah,
little,
run through is a...
if he's pretty straight, he can leave the cross loser on the red from the middle pocket there, or he can play in off for a drop cannon.
Screen back here for the same. Okay.
Obviously had a bit of angle that
Yeah.
way.
It's tough to see the angles on the commentary screen sometimes, but Matthews preferred to leave another pot red. Very compact action, Matthew. See, he's played it there. That's an interesting shot. So there we are. He's worked that white ball into a drop cannon position once more. See how he controls the white ball here. Making sure he hit the inside of that red, pushing towards the pocket.
He's got the white ball in a pretty good position now.
Yeah.
These aren't easy pots on this table.
No, both players struggled early with these types of pots. It'll be interesting to see how Matthew copes with this one here. Being a screw shot too makes it a little bit tougher.
He's cued that very, very well.
So Matthew in perfect top of the table here with 36 minutes left. In previous years would probably say he'd like to settle in and run out the end of this session. See how he goes. I'm sure that will be in the back of Matthew's mind, knowing there's only 36 minutes left. Hasn't knocked in a sizable break as yet. A perfect top.
Stunning up here. Can't see the angle there, a little screw back. we wanted to push that wide ball back up closer to the spot. So right, finish high on one side and run through it. I don't think he has on that angle there.
This is really where you see the dots of play. In past years, without the spots, it looks easy what the players are doing, but I guarantee you it's very difficult. And a lot of these shots are played with side, and you'll see the spots rotating in certain directions to get certain kisses.
Got a chance here to knock it back up.
Yeah.
To come back on the side, right hand side.
Yeah.
Like he's done there.
So you see he had a touch of right hand side there.
I'd like to hit that just a little bit harder to make that pot on the red a bit easier. Play the cannon now.
Just making sure of that there. He wasn't really too bothered about the opponent's ball. And he'll be back at underneath the spot again.
Matt likes to play the opponent's ball just to the side, not directly behind the red spot.
Definitely gives a lot more tolerance when you're playing top, a lot more margin for error. One thing I've spoken to Matthew about too is, with Postman's knock, etc., a lot of players like to leave, or are taught to leave your cue ball directly in line with the red spot. Matthew tends to play a little bit higher on the red. He believes it gives you more margin for error. Trying that myself, I do agree.
He's finished a bit lower than he would have liked. He would have liked to come up the top cushion there.
So Matthew confident to keep potting there. Interesting little thing there. A lot of our Indian counterparts would have played a direct stop on their ball and played a cross loser. That's one thing they're heavily taught in India. It's, if that red ball's sitting on the lip there, you stop the cue ball and just take the cross loser and keep going. Whereas Matthew and a lot of the other pros, they do like to take the pots and continue with the break at top.
Moves on to 98.
There's another 100. Not too many big breaks yet. It's only the first session. It's hard to get going.
Matt'll be looking to pot this with a little bit of left-hand side, just to make an angle to get off the side cushion, so he can make the correcting canning and put the opponent's ball back behind the spot.
You saw that red just rattle in. That's not the most generous pockets here.
Just finished a little bit too high. A little soft screw. Well played.
That's a great shot.
He's got straight up. He's having another look. Looks like it'll spot. If not, he'll just finish up high at the pink spot. No, it looks like it must spot.
So we've got Kim spotting out close red again. Still got around half an hour left, Michael, with Matthew currently sitting on just over 100. If he keeps going here and does play out the whole time to the break, what would you expect Matthew to be on in terms of breaks?
Well, Matthew, if he stays at top, without rushing, he'll comfortably make 6-minute hundreds.
Yeah.
when Matt's playing top, he doesn't generally go out too often.
Mm.
So he'll run up a sizable break if he holds the table. Just got that one a little bit hard.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to read some of the stats on the top class players. On some of the billiard stat forums, Matthews is one of the quickest players in terms of average times for hundreds, and I think obviously Dave Corsier is the front runner there. He's head and shoulders above the rest of the players when it comes to speed, but Matthew is definitely a fast 100 break player. And we also had Peter Gilchrist out playing in the Open tournament, who is he's definitely been a top 4.
Yeah, Matt's just having a look there to see if he could catch the red first, very thin with side, but it looks like it mightn't be able to get enough side on that, so he'll play a gathering cannon here.
They can always go wrong, those shots.
Yeah, we'll just have to look where he needs to put his cue ball now so he can make a correcting cannon and get that opponent's ball, but no, he mustn't have it.
Doesn't want this red to go in.
Just checking to see the loser on the yellow, on the white, sorry. So we can just leave the cue ball there for the in off the red. Play 2 shots here, get them both above the centre pocket so we can play direct method. That way your drop cannon can't go wrong.
Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier. The methods used by some of the players. The direct method is definitely the foolproof way to get top of the table.
If that just gets past,
Yeah.
just not quite enough. Yeah, this can go wrong playing in off the red. Looks like he's going to push a white ball down towards the top cushion. He's just trying to have a look where he's going to send it. Whether he plays this a bit harder and plays it off 2 cushions and tries to get back to the middle, the red shouldn't travel too far. Or he just dribbles it in.
So as the break moves 150, we might change commentary and hand over to Peter Tankard and David Pitt.
Thanks, Grant. Thanks, Mike. Dave, while we were sitting out in the room, we saw a bit of frustration from Steve Mifsud. Don't see that very often.
Very uncharacteristic, Peter. I've known Steve for a very long time, and I've only seen a show of emotion like that from him on perhaps 2 or 3 occasions.
Yeah, this obviously gives you an idea of how much this means to him, and obviously he's been putting in the work and feels like he's got a right to contest here. And it'd be fair to say they haven't been rolling his way, whereas Matt's had a few breaks. That's another one.
Definitely, that yellow going in didn't hurt Matthew's cause at all. He probably
left 2
had a
half
shot.
balls.
Yeah, he's probably had a shot from down in the corner there. But you know, being able to play from hand is the great advantage of billiards. You can put your ball anywhere in that circle. That's one of the features that really distinguishes billiards from other games. It's the only game where you go off and get that advantage of being able to place your own ball by hand. Matthew hasn't played that shot
a bit
well.
short.
That's definitely short. He was trying to bring that up to the middle pocket, and he's put the red in the way of the in off the white.
So he's got to play a little bit
with check side on this.
left-hand side in this case.
Yep. He's handled that nicely enough just to leave a cannon to push the red down into the corner, but not his preferred mode of operation. This is the sort of billiards I play, but not the sort of billiards you expect to see from the Matthew Boltons of the world.
It was interesting what he did there, take the red off the cushion. You and I would be more tempted to roll it towards the pocket, wouldn't we?
Deep into the corner, yes. But no complications, just pushing that line. I think you would have liked to have brought that further up the table too,
Yes.
towards the balk end.
Now, Grant and Mike were talking about direct method. Do you want to just explain what that is? There are two ways of getting to the top, aren't there? And top is where the players are going to score most heavily because the white ball gets trapped by the cushion and the red keeps coming back onto the billiard spot.
Yeah, that's right, Peter. So the two main techniques are using the middle pockets to firstly going off the white and push that down behind the spot, and then potting the red into a centre pocket and going down. That's the longer way, but there's a shorter way to get there, which is to play a drop cannon either from the red to the white or the white to the red, and bringing the balls together with that shot. Generally speaking, it's quicker to get there with the drop cannon, but there is more risk because there is a risk of a smother or a bad kiss. Things just not going quite right, one ball finishing on the cushion. You'll eliminate that risk largely by using the middle pockets. This is the sort of thing that can go wrong with a drop cannon. Matthew there bridging over that ball just meant that he couldn't play the pot with the same confidence that he could have if he'd had his hand on the table. Now, a nice screw cannon has enabled him to recover. And, he's back in business. The standard hasn't been particularly high in this first session, as you can see from the scoring rates. Both these players would be expecting to score well over 300 an hour. In Matthew's case, well over 400 an hour, if they're playing well. But in a 5:42 to 1:38 at the end of the first session towards the end of the first session is not great billiards. They just haven't really had the balls running their way either of them. There's another example. Matthew's just pushed that white too far for the drop cannon. Now he has to revert to a long loser. There's a couple of risks here. There's a risk of losing the white. There's a risk of catching a jaw and sending the white in unpredictable spots. And just the risk of leaving yourself a succession of long losers.
Grant was talking earlier about the pace of scoring, and he was right to say that David Corsier, who's the current world champion, is head and shoulders above the rest in terms of scoring rates. And last time I looked at the stats, I think that David Corsier was around the 460 an hour mark, and number 2 was the man that we're looking at now, Matt Bolton, at around about 390 an hour. So that's still fast scoring.
Right, it is. There's a good example of why drop cannons can be tricky. Just a little kiss there at the end prevented Matthew's ball from coming back up off the top cushion, and now he's left himself a tricky shot.
Well, it's in the nature of drop cannons, isn't it? Because you are trying to regather the balls, and so you end up with strange collisions. And
this will be a pretty shot here. Yeah, screw back.
He's got the white into the middle of the table, so that's good. But he's got a little screw in off red to try and leave it over the middle.
I think he may play a cannon here. Yeah, you're right. That nicely, put the red over the middle. Quite a slow method of scoring here. He's just having to go in off. The balls take a long time to stop. You have to sort of stop and think about what you're doing. When these guys are at the top of the table, they know exactly what they want to do every shot, and the balls aren't moving nearly as far, so the pace of scoring is much quicker.
So Matt's come down and had a look at the position of the billiard spot. These cloths just have a pencil mark where the spot is, or a pen mark where the spot is. So he wants to know where that is relative to the white ball. Oh, uncharacteristic miss. He was trying to get his yellow ball down into a position where he could make a cannon there and know the position of the billiard spot.
It's if I could just correct you there, Peter. It's a pencil mark.
A
Marking
pencil
the
mark.
table. You people might use pens in New South Wales, but we don't do that down here.
I said to you the other day, Dave, that you're a pedant, and you denied it.
A 2B pencil, if you really
A
want to.
2B
If you really want to know all the details.
I did. I think that's critical to our viewers to know that.
Steve's just got a tricky scenario here. I think he's got a thin cannon. He must. He's just.
Needed a bit more of the red. Go in. Thank you.
That's a good break for Steve there. Just slipping in off that
Yes,
red. He
had
didn't really have a
nothing
shot.
after that. Now
apart
he's
from
got
that.
a cannon push red over the pocket.
That's really the first good break that
It
Steve's
really
had.
is. He's had
in
none
this
of the
match.
running.
Yeah,
None of the
so,
running. Maybe that's a turning point.
Maybe you just go.
Oh,
no!
no.
He's just got inside that red and.
It was almost impossible not to leave that over the corner pocket.
He
in
just
any other
managed to
connection
find
with
the
that.
gap. Yep.
Yeah.
Cushion first was fine. Red first was fine, but he just actually managed to hit the red and the cushion almost simultaneously, and just squeezed in behind the red where there wasn't a lot of room. And that's a piece of bad. Yeah, nice
that's a
recovery.
clever
Nice
shot.
recovery. Yeah. But again, still not out of the woods. He's got the white in perfect position, but
Yep. Has he got in off the red?
it's very skinny.
Push red over the middle.
Very skinny.
I don't think he's got a lot of other choices. He's got a bash cannon, but then he loses
No.
position on the yellow.
He may have to try and pot the red here. We'll see.
I think that's why he came around to size it up. But if that yellow's directly behind the spot, it makes it difficult.
Maybe enough in the middle. He's played the pot.
And he's missed it.
He's missed it.
Now, you wouldn't see him miss a pot like that by that far most days, would you?
No,
I mean,
you
it's
wouldn't,
not
but
easy,
it wasn't easy. He had to play it very slowly.
Yes.
Normally in snooker or even in billiards, you prefer to hit pots like that more firmly rather than just,
Dribble them in.
dribbling them towards the pocket. But for positional reasons, he had to play that slowly.
Must be very frustrating for him to.
I have to say Matthew didn't handle that pot particularly well either. He's just come up on a slightly awkward angle. I think he would have
He's got
preferred to have
choices,
been
though.
straighter on that one. You can see him shaking his head there. He's been known to shake his head once or twice in the past, Matthew. Have you noticed that at all?
I haven't seen that, David. No, that's news to me. Yes, we said when he was playing the
Clearly you haven't been paying attention.
when he was playing the Open final, that Matt is a player that you know is exactly what's in his head by the look on his face and his demeanour. And I think it's almost a release valve for him. A lot of players need that. Not ideal.
No, his ball's on the cushion, which is always tricky with bridging and so forth. Awkward cueing. He's just got a loop bridge there. But he has to hit this red firmly to come out for in off the wide. Hit it nicely. Come out well. Almost.
So the sequence here would be in off the white, push the white virtually in a straight line up the table to leave it just short of the middle pocket and leave a drop cannon coming back down.
Well, the object
He's
balls.
got a bit too much
The
of that.
object balls always travel in a straight line, Peter. But I think you meant
I mean a
was
parallel
you
line.
meant a line parallel to the
A line
cushion.
parallel.
Yes.
Thank you for that correction, David. I appreciate that. It's very helpful. Very, very helpful.
However, yes, he did want a parallel line, and by putting it close to the cushion there, rather than a drop cannon, he's now got to play a short jenny, which he doesn't fancy,
a
or a
long
long
jenny.
jenny, which is tricky with the white being so far down the table.
Long jenny's a spinning shot, where in this case he's playing it with low with left hand side, and the ball spins into the pocket off the jaws. It was a little tricky because it was close to the cushion.
That's
He had
right.
to
He
avoid the double
didn't
kiss.
really have maximum side on that one,
No.
Peter. Just so when it got to the jaw, instead of spinning in, it just sort of bobbled inside.
Now,
So that's-
David, can you explain for us why it's called a Jenny?
No,
Then I'll explain for you.
thank you.
It's named after the spinning Jenny,
Mhm.
the cotton machine,
Mhm.
because it spins. It's called a Jenny.
No, okay, thank you.
Just he'd help. Just he'd help.
I was a bit surprised that Steve didn't have another look at the cushion first in off there. Because from here, it seemed there may have been enough gap for him to go through there. But anyway, he's double walked Matthew. And
So does Matthew attack this? How do you decide whether you're going to attack a
Oh,
double
well,
ball?
this is
You-
what it-
You're allowed in billiards to just
Yeah.
push the ball to anywhere you want on the table, and the balls can't be respotted. And
highly
that's what Matt's
unlikely.
doing.
Yeah, highly unlikely that he would attack that. It depends on the state of the game. The position of the balls, of course, then dictates whether you attack or not. And the lead that your opponent's got now, Steve's got a simple enough pot red here. The position is problematic. If he wants to get down to this end of the table, he's going to have to hit it pretty hard. There's a nice shot here, which is a thick run through with strong right hand side, which will take the red across the table in
Towards
the
the
direction
yellow
of the
one.
yellow.
Yeah.
That's the billiard shot. We have to see what Steve does here. I think he's playing that shot. Yeah, he did exactly as described, with one small omission.
Yes. So if Matthew pots this ball, it stays down, and he's looking at his alternatives.
It's
Both
interesting to
players
see that Matthew's having a good look at the pot white here. I can assure you that it's an indication of just how much this match means to both of these guys. Matthew's 400 points in front at this stage, but the respect he's showing for Steve here, I would suggest that under normal circumstances, he went off it. What a good shot that was. What a good shot. Yeah, he's got another long
So
journey.
probably a short
Possibly
Jenny from
short.
here.
Mm.
So I'd be lining this up as if it's a half ball, and then taking it inside that line just slightly, and playing with strong left-hand side.
It's a very pretty shot, this. Just curls into the pocket, off the jaw,
Yep.
brings the red out into a beautiful position for either a pot or an in off, and
He'll be
back in
looking to
middle of-
recover that white as quickly as he can, won't he?
Yes, the play here is to bring the red up very close to the balk line, giving him maximum flexibility for potting it. He'll probably pot this into the side pocket, screw back to leave himself in off the white.
And that's what he's looking at now. He's looking at that angle for the white. So he's going to line up the pot pretty straight,
So as long as he gets
and
back,
then screw back.
yeah, I think so. As long as he gets back behind the balk line, he should be good. But he probably would prefer to be a bit deeper into balk, probably about
Yes.
a foot inside balk. That's
left it a bit
interesting.
thin.
I think he.
It was the awkward bridging, I think, that was the problem.
I
He had
think
his,
he's actually stunned that back rather than
Yeah.
screwing it back, I think. So it hasn't quite come back on a straight line. And left him with a.
has he got
I
the
think
run
he's got
through?
a thin enough. No, I think he's playing thin. It's very
Then he'll
thin.
have to bash it, won't he, if
And
it's
he'd
thin.
have to hit it hard to bring the white out. Not
Yeah.
too hard. You just have to bring the white a long way out. Ooh, what a good shot that was. He's absolutely powered that white in fine and cut the white, across
Yeah,
the
he's left-
table and out and back again.
He's left a half ball in
Yeah.
off into the middle, and he'll push the white just past the red and up again to the drop cannon position.
It's a great recovery sequence there
It was.
from that opening. Squeezing the in off the white to open the break, and then developing the red, and then the white sequence. And
So he's really focused on getting that white close to the spot, knowing that he can either pot or go in off the red as he prefers. So go in off and push it up for a pot over the middle pocket. pot on there, he had the white on the wrong side of the spot,
right.
so he's brought it up again. He could stun over, but Billiards players tend not to do that. He's doing it this time by the looks of things. Oh no. Just control.
We can't. This is over. Yes, that's perfect. White to red cannon, bouncing the white off the top cushion towards the
right-hand
spot
side.
and taking the red towards the pocket. Doesn't fancy it, he's going the other way. It's been a little bit wide, that one.
This is where Mike Pearson was saying most of the Indian players would just stun that red and leave it there and play across loser.
Not in that position because the white was in the way of the red going up towards the middle, but he's recovered this well enough. He's got over to the other side of the table and he's got a little cannon to just bunch them together.
Is there an official VBSA 2B pencil that you use?
No, there is not.
So it's just a
Freedom.
common or garden variety?
Yes, we don't have our own branded 2B
Can't
pencils,
believe
but each club should have their own supply
I see.
of
I see. So you don't
2B
issue
pencils. No,
rubber.
we don't issue them, no.
Can't believe that.
Most of the clubs have their table serviced by Alcock, so of course the fitters there have a supply of 2B pencils. I should say, a 2B pencil will last about 7 years.
Just
for,
mark
for,
spots.
for a club with 2 or 3 tables, so it's not exactly so you need to have a gross of them or anything like
Huge
that.
investment.
Yeah. I've got a little kit down at Kooyong, the club I play at, with
I've seen
a
your
pencil
seen
sharpener and a
Of
2B
course you
pencil.
have.
I reckon it's.
Of course you
I
have.
reckon I've been using the same pencil for at least 20 years.
I've seen your travelling kit, and I think it would be fair to say that you are the only player travelling who takes with them replacement brass nuts for the, for the Victoria rails. Deny it if you can.
I can't deny that. Yes, I've got a little kit. It's quite embarrassing to reveal the contents of it, Peter. But in there I have a set of accurate scales for measuring the weight of the balls, and yes, as you say, a set of replacement nuts and the lock nuts for the Empire or snooker rails, as they're known. Because you quite often go to a club and they're either missing or they're loose, and the balls fall on the floor and things like that.
Well, that's why we love having you visit our clubs in New South Wales, because you do running repairs when you're there.
Yeah. It gets worse, Peter, because not only do I have the nuts and the lock nuts, I also have a pair of miniature spanners
Of course you
in
do.
the correct size.
Of course you do.
He's just left himself a slightly awkward position there, but a beautiful run through cannon just to bring the 3 balls together, and he's absolutely gathered them beautifully.
Well, I was predicting a much closer result than this. It looks like we're going to end this first session with Matthew firmly on top. And I know Steve will be bitterly disappointed about this, because he has been playing gorgeous
Yeah, it's a
billiards
pretty
all
shot
week.
here. Cushion first, just slipping there behind the white and onto the red. Very pretty shot, that recovery
Yep.
from an otherwise impossible position.
And played it very softly,
Yeah,
so that
that's right.
he didn't bash it up past the
Matthew's,
past the pocket.
Matthew's just asked for the ball to be cleaned. Just gives him a moment to go and have a sip of water. You're right, Steve will be disappointed in this, but the only thing I would say is that with his score of 154, he's lucky that Matthew isn't about 1,000 in front of him.
That's true.
Normally Matthew, with a score like that by his opponent, would be heading towards the 1,000 mark in a session like this. really the standard of play hasn't been high by either player. Matthew's just sort of plodding along by his standards, and Steve just hasn't been able to get going.
Do you think it has a lot to do with the cloth not being brand new?
72.
It's interesting, Peter. Look, the conditions here haven't been the same as they have in other years, but the tournament director, Paul Cosgrove, has been very responsive to the comments that the players have made. He's made sure over the last 3 or 4 days that the tables are being ironed 2 or even 3 times a day to try and get them closer to the speeds that we've been used to in the past. And in fact, he's moved the final from the Revendon Championship table, which was originally scheduled to hold the final, onto this table at the request of both players, who both played on this table yesterday and felt that this table is just playing the best of any table in the room. So certainly the tournament organisers have been trying to provide the best conditions possible for the players, which is great. That's what they should be doing. Nice cushion first shot there from Matthew, pushing the red out to the middle of the table and the white up there. He's got a choice of shots here. He'll just be potting his red stunning over to the side pocket for a cross loser. He's just overcooked that stun, leaving himself a wide shot.
He can still make it with a little extra
very makeable,
force.
but the point
So
is
it
he's
goes
hitting the
in
red
and
hard
out.
in and out of balk. It's actually just not quite certain where this red might finish. It's pretty thick, and he's got a great result because it's lobbed right over the middle pocket. You can never really be sure where that type of shot is going to finish when it's travelled
So now
30
pushes
feet.
it down into drop cannon position.
That's a short drop cannon just to get
Yeah.
them.
So which side of the red does he want to hit?
Well, that's an interesting question. He's played for the outside of the red and just got it and left them a bit nasty. The alternative method, which is safer, is to play for the inside of the red, bring the white across and leave both balls in front of you. So it depends whether you're looking to go straight to the top or just trying to bunch them on the top cushion for 1 or 2 cannons to take them to the top.
Now what's happening here?
Difficult run through.
enough.
Yes, beautifully
Yes, look at
played.
that.
Used the red to clear the white off the cushion, and then his ball ran through along the cushion through that cleared path and spun into the pocket. A very pretty shot though.
That cannon that Matt made earlier, would he have missed it without the double kiss on the white ball? Looked to me like he was just drifting wide, and then the white came to his assistance.
Well,
Maybe not.
not sure, maybe not. Yeah, it's hard to see from our angle. That white is in an awkward spot to recover. You probably pop this red and go down to the spot in and pop the red a couple more times, and then try and go in off that, but see how he deals with it. About the white travelling on a perfectly parallel, the yellow travelling on a perfectly parallel line to the side cushion, bouncing back off the top cushion, which enables you to get better control. And now he's got the choice of either potting a red or going off the white. I don't. Oh, here we go. He's going off the white. It's a good shot. That hit that thin, I think, with a bit of screw to make sure that the white, the thin
Camera.
contact pushed the white up towards the bulk end of the table. I should say down towards the bulk end of the table.
So now in off the yellow, push it past the red, come off 2 cushions, leave drop cannon.
Yes,
A little bit too
a
far.
bit too thick. You need to swing that white around off 2 cushions, but it's okay. It's recoverable here with the cannon from white to red, pushing the white down to join the other 2. And might just be a bit smelly. No, probably not. He can play thin off this red off the side cushion and knock the white back towards the red.
up.
Not quite, but it's pretty close to a line-up. I'd be happy with that. 108 to go with this break, and just extending Matthews' lead to 676 to Steve Mifsud 154, as you can see on your screen. So a 500-point lead at this stage. Oh, what a good shot that was. Direct screw back. Awkward because he was cueing in the corner, so his cue was resting on the pocket leather. It's great cueing to play that shot in like that in a controlled fashion. It's again too thick on the white. He was trying to play that a bit thinner to leave himself a cannon. A good shot needed here. And he's played that beautifully. A little bit of check side. Just pushing the two balls together off the the cannon off the side cushion. That's a very good shot. Not a perfect lead from it, but it's still a good shot.
I must say it's hard to see where that spot is. Perhaps if you used a 4B pencil. Doesn't hurt.
121.
Well, Matthew will be very happy with this, with only moments to go in this session. Unfinished break 121 in good position. That's a very strong position for Matthew to go away, have a bite to eat, come back for the second session at 1:30, and really try and put a big break into to make the job for Steve very, very difficult.
I saw Steve playing with his hands a bit earlier when I was out in the room.
What do you think was going on there?
I didn't know. He just banged the table. Yeah, maybe cold. Maybe cold.
Interesting. I did notice he put a band-aid on his index finger on his bridge hand yesterday. Obviously he's got a little cut or something there that's just worrying him. I don't know if he's playing with that with that now. Yes, you can go straight to the top here. Thin off the red. Thin off the red.
Yeah.
And yes, he's hit that in beautiful direction, but not quite hard enough.
He's probably worried about potting the red if he gave it too much more
He's
oomph.
just, looks like he's a little bit too straight on the red as well, so it's a good plan.
So it brings it up here to the middle pocket.
Yeah, he's played that well.
Come up.
Yeah, I think it's okay. So you can play a similar shot here, a white to red. Well, quite different, but similar in that it's a white to red cannon. Oh, there's the bell for the end of the session. So at the end of the first session, Matthew Bolton 704 with 136 unfinished. Leads Steve Mifsud 154. That's it from us at Cue Ball TV for the moment. The second session will commence at 1:30. And Peter, thank you for your expert
Thank you, David.
commentary.
Thank you. Cheers.